Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Today is January 6th, the day Congress certifies the election. While Trudeau resigned and Yoon Suk-yeol is under tremendous pressure, the Italian PM Meloni visited President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Okay, let's get into it. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced that he will resign as Prime Minister and Liberal leader after a replacement is chosen. He also asked Governor General Mary Simon to prorogue Parliament until March 24th, a request that Simon granted.
So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process.
Trudeau made the announcement after weeks of turmoil within the Liberal caucus, with many MPs publicly calling for his resignation amid declining poll numbers. Trudeau said that he wanted to stay on for the next election to compete against Pierre Poilievre, who has been surging in the polls. But Trudeau said that the internal conflict in the Liberal Party has made it impossible for him to continue as leader.
As you all know, I am a fighter. And I am not someone who backs away from a fight, particularly when a fight is as important as this one is. But I have always been driven by my love for Canada, by my desire to serve Canadians, and by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And Canadians deserve a real choice in the next election. And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
Trudeau's botched immigration policy led to hundreds of thousands of arrivals, straining an already overheated housing market. The negative effects of those progressive agendas quickly became apparent, sending his approval rating all the way down to historic lows. On Monday, President Trump marked Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's resignation with a post on Truth Social. President Trump wrote, "If Canada merged with the U.S., there would be no tariffs, taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Together, what a great nation it would be." Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni made a surprise visit to Florida on Saturday. She met with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. According to Bloomberg, President Trump walked into a movie screening at his resort with Meloni and pointed her out to a crowd. President Trump said, "This is very exciting. I'm here with a fantastic woman, the Prime Minister of Italy. She's really taken Europe by storm and everyone else, and we're just having dinner tonight."
Mr. President.
Hi, everybody. We love you. We're going to be down there. What is it, 8:45?
Italy's EU and Regional Affairs Minister Tommaso Foti said on Sunday that the meeting had not been announced in advance. While specific details of the meeting between President Trump and Meloni have not been released, Italian media reported that Meloni and President Trump discussed Russia's war in Ukraine, trade issues, the situation in the Middle East, and the plight of an Italian journalist who was detained in Iran. Iran imprisoned an Italian reporter, Cecilia Sala. Sala was detained 3 days after an Iranian businessman was arrested at an airport in Milan. Then Iran demanded the release of the businessman, who faces extradition to the United States from Italy. The Iranian businessman was arrested on a U.S. arrest warrant in Italy for allegedly supplying drone parts that Washington says were used in a 2023 attack that killed 3 U.S. service members in Jordan. However, Iran has denied involvement in the attack. An Iranian foreign ministry official urged Italy to reject America's hostage policy. The official also urged Italy to not cooperate with the U.S. warrant. Tehran also urged the Meloni administration to release the businessman as soon as possible. But it's still unclear what Meloni will do. Meloni is a conservative. She has led Italy's right-wing coalition government since late 2022. She was chosen by Politico as the most powerful person in Europe. Besides the U.S. and Italy being important allies, President Trump and Meloni have a somewhat similar approach to policy in a wide range of subjects. Meloni thanked President Trump for welcoming her to his Florida residence, and she said she is ready to work with the incoming administration. Also present was Marco Rubio, President Trump's nominee for Secretary of State. Meloni will also meet with President Biden in the coming days. Biden plans to travel to Rome from January 9th to the 12th to meet with Pope Francis, with Italian President Sergio Mattarella, and with Meloni. The first major winter storm of the year is threatening a 2,100-mile stretch of the United States from the Northwest to the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic region, and the East Coast. Arlington and Washington, D.C. were hit by a storm Sunday night. The Weather Service warns of snow and sleet totals of 5 to 9 inches. The governor of Virginia has declared a state of emergency, while the governor of Maryland has declared a state of readiness. And today is the day that the U.S. Congress officially certifies Donald Trump as President of the United States. The bad weather has made it difficult for lawmakers to get around, but House Speaker Mike Johnson said before that the joint session would go on as scheduled. Johnson told Fox News' Sunday Morning Futures in an interview, the Electoral Count Act requires this on January 6th at 1 p.m., so whether we're in a blizzard or not, we're going to be in that chamber making sure this is done. Johnson said that he hoped all members of Congress would be able to attend despite the storm, and he encouraged legislators to stay in downtown Washington, D.C. on Sunday night. Other leaders stressed that they were not contemplating a weather delay either. Lauren Fine, the communications director for Republican House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, said no change to the schedule. So, upon entering the Senate chamber on Monday, House Speaker Mike Johnson gavelled in the joint session of Congress, and after all electoral votes were counted and reported, Vice President Kamala Harris announced the certification of her 2024 presidential election loss to President Trump. Harris also confirmed the certification of J.D. Vance as Vice President-elect.
The state of the vote for the President of the United States, as delivered to the President of the Senate, is as follows. The whole number of the electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, the majority is 270. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio has received 312 votes. This announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected, President and Vice President of the United States, each for a term beginning on the 20th day of January 2025, and shall be entered together with the list of the votes on the journals of the House and the Senate. Thank you very much.
Against the backdrop of the intensifying political turmoil in South Korea, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited Seoul on Monday. He reiterated his confidence in the Asian ally to cope with the political turmoil. Meanwhile, South Korean investigators are seeking an extension of the arrest warrant for impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. The arrest warrant is due to expire at midnight on Monday. Since the issuance of the arrest warrant, supporters of Yoon Suk-yeol have continued to gather, sit in, and stand guard around the presidential residence. It has become a political venue for people to support Yoon and to express their views. according to media estimates. When the investigating authorities executed the detention order on January 3rd, more than 10,000 supporters gathered in front of the president's residence. In the early morning of January 3rd, the temperature was minus 3 degrees Celsius, but the number of supporters in front of the presidential palace doubled from the day before. Some volunteers provided food to supporters and encouraged people to stick to it. A woman in her 60s, holding a Korean flag and an American flag, shouted, "Freedom and democracy must be protected." Professor Am Kwang-Koo Nam of Korea University spoke on a temporary stage in front of the president's residence. He said, "The current struggle between the president and his supporters to resist the impeachment, although it originated with the president's impeachment for imposing martial law, is really a struggle between the free world and the communist dictatorship, between the US, South Korea, and Japan on the one hand, and China, North Korea, and Russia on the other." The legislators also called on the public to unite and fight until victory. Congresswoman Kim Min-jong said that when President Yoon announced the emergency curfew, she complained that he couldn't hold back. But when the president received a motion of impeachment against him, she realized that her complaint was wrong. She said that the impeachment incident reads, "President Yoon Suk-yeol should be impeached for being hostile to China and Russia." Seeing this description, she realized that the core of the impeachment, the essence of the impeachment, is whether the Republic of Korea is heading toward liberal democracies such as the United States or toward countries such as China, North Korea, and Russia. However, this paragraph was deleted in the second impeachment motion. She also criticized the court's issuance of President Yoon Suk-yeol's detention order as a judicial monopoly and its arbitrary standards of justice. On New Year's Day, Yoon Suk-yeol delivered a letter to the public. He wrote, "Patriotic citizens, Korea is facing the threat of sovereign aggression and anti-national forces, and I will stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you until the end. The masters of freedom and democracy are not the state or political parties, but the people, and freedom and democracy will prevail." However, his remarks were interpreted by one group of people as incitement. Among the conservatives who came to protect the president, there were old people, young people, couples, and even families with young children. Some of them have been coming here for days, shivering in the cold, but still insisting. Many say that they have awakened to the fact that they will no longer be incited by the left. Other members of the public also described how they went from not understanding to supporting the president's implementation of martial law. Kim Min-suk said in his speech that because of the efforts of the former presidents, they are enjoying everything in Korea today. And he said, "Therefore, even if the communists run us over with tanks, we will defend the president and the value of freedom to the end." Many young people have also talked about how they initially did not understand martial law, but through checking the internet, they finally realized the truth. So then they joined the supporters in order to protect the country. There was a heavy snowfall in Seoul on Saturday night. The vice president, who was acting as president, decided not to try to enforce the detention on Sunday. On Sunday, the Korea Senior Public Officials Crime Investigation Service sent a letter to the National Investigation Headquarters of the National Police Agency. They requested it to take over the execution of the arrest warrant. However, a police official said at a news briefing on Monday that the police believe that there was a legal dispute over such a transfer. This was actually a rejection of the commission from the investigation authority. The investigative authority said that they plan to apply to the court for an extension of the arrest warrant later on Monday. Yoon Suk-yeol's lawyers argued that under Korean law, the public prosecutor's office does not have the authority to investigate any cases involving allegations of civil unrest. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken emphasized that the unfolding of the events in the wake of martial law reflect the fact that Korea is a successful democracy. He said, "The response that we've seen, that we expect to continue to see, is one that is peaceful and fully consistent and in accordance with the Constitution and the rule of law." 5 years after the COVID-19 outbreak, a mysterious new virus is being reported in China. An outbreak caused by one or more mysterious viruses is overwhelming some Chinese hospitals and prompting a return to wearing masks. Videos on social media show that medical units in China are overcrowded. Late at night, anxious parents are still carrying their sick children to the hospital, creating long lines at pediatric departments. The scene shown in this video is not at a train station, but in a children's hospital in China at 6 a.m. early in the morning on New Year's Day. There are also unconfirmed reports again on the internet that the crematorium is overloaded. Chinese media are claiming that human metapneumovirus, HMPV, is responsible for the outbreak. However, officials have yet to confirm these claims. Ostensibly, the symptoms of HMPV match those of most people. HMPV usually causes cold-like symptoms, including fever, cough, runny nose, and wheezing. In severe cases, it can lead to bronchitis or pneumonia, and children are at a larger risk of severe illness. The virus can be spread through droplets or close contact with contaminated surfaces, and there's no vaccine or antiviral drug to treat it. But someone who claimed to be a doctor said on the X platform that many of the recent tests on clinical cases in China were not influenza, but a new strain of COVID-19. It attacks the lungs more easily than Omicron when infected. Many people somehow develop pneumonia, but the news media has suppressed the information so far. Schools were the hardest hit, and almost everyone was infected. The Chinese Communist Party has not released any official reports recognizing the situation, despite the fact that social media in China is awash with the talk of overcrowded hospitals. We all remember that 5 years ago, Wuhan, China was the first city to be infected with the COVID virus. As the Chinese Communist Party concealed the outbreak at the time, the virus spread rapidly. Not only did the whole of Wuhan become a disaster zone, but the virus also spread overseas and became a global pandemic, causing a large number of deaths. Many families are still suffering from the pain and trauma of the pandemic. And now the UK Independent is reporting that some local media in China are saying that the HMPV outbreak is similar to the original COVID outbreak. And India has reported its first HMPV case in an 8-month-old baby. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember that every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you. But please double check to make sure that you're still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they're somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. We've also heard that many of you don't get notifications of our videos anymore on YouTube. So when you do subscribe on YouTube, please make sure to tap the notification bell as well. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share this video with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth.